Good morning. You're in my class, Miss Smith. We're here at 6th grade at Chapelwood Elementary, and our lesson today is about animal populations.
Hey, thanks guys. So today our lesson is about ecosystems. And on this cold January morning, I often think, I'm glad I'm not an animal that lives outside. Because an animal that lives outside has very few choices. What are some of the choices that an animal might do when it's really cold? Yes.
Hibernate.
They could hibernate. Some animals, that's one of their adaptations, but you can't just decide to hibernate. That's part of an adaptation. So a bear might hibernate, or certain other animals might hibernate. What else could you do? Yes.
Like adapt.
You could adapt. Some animals get thicker fur. They get thicker fur and they can survive. And some animals leave the area altogether. What's that called? Anybody? A bird will leave the area. What do we call that?
Migration.
Migration, yeah. Now, I'll tell you, we're going to talk today about animal populations and how animals, the number of animals go up or go down. That's a natural thing. It's natural for animal populations not to be exactly the same. So when the habitat is really good, you'd expect the population to do what? Go up. And if the habitat or something happens, you'd expect the population to. Have you ever seen any of the Canadian geese flying around here? Have you? Well, I'll tell you, some of the schools I go to, a Canadian goose is a big problem. In fact, at North Wayne, when I go there are so many geese that you can't go out on the playground. The playground is not a nice place to go because of all the droppings and the refuse from the Canadian geese. But I remember about 20 years ago at Chapel Glen, 2 geese landed at our school. And it was like, this is so cool. There were no geese in Indianapolis. And it was like, wow, we went out, took pictures of them, we drew, we researched. 20 years later, there are so many geese at the school that we have to hire people or put up coyotes, predators, to try to scare them away. So the geese population went from hardly 1 or 2 to way too many. Now, the interesting thing about geese, in nature, geese migrate. And they are taught that by their parents. In Canada, when a baby gosling grows and develops and starts to fly, when the weather gets bad, they fly and spread out all over the southern parts of the United States. Well, 20 years ago, when we wanted to have geese in Indianapolis, people brought in geese, hatched them out, let them go. They were never taught to migrate. So the geese you see here in Indiana, they like, hey, this is a great place. There's corn, there's soybeans, there's lakes, and there's school parking lots and fields for us to eat and make our habitat. So there's an example of an animal population that has kind of got out of control because of something that people have done. So today we're going to study animal populations and some of the factors that make them go up and make them go down. Okay, so this peppered moth, you might think, wow, a peppered moth? What does that got to do with animal populations? But if you look into some of this peppered moth, this is a moth. You might see moths fly by all the time. A moth lays eggs, the eggs hatch out, and then you get hundreds of caterpillars that eat, metamorphosize, and turn into adult moths to reproduce and keep the life cycle going. Well, this particular moth that's found in England comes in 2 basic, what we call is phenotypes or colors. We have a light one with black spots and a black one with light spots. And you might think, okay, what's the big deal about that? Well, during the Industrial Revolution in London and England, people burned coal. So much coal got into the air that when the soot came down, it covered everything in dark soot. Now, if the buildings, the bushes, the trees, the sidewalks were dark, and you're a bird hungry, which one of these moths would you think would be easier to see and eat if you're a predator? Yes? The white one. And because of the pollution changing everything dark, the population of the white moth, how do you think it would go? It decreased. But what happened to the population of the black moth? It increased. So they started about here, and all of a sudden the white moth went down and the black moth went up because of the habitat. But then people got smart. Let's clean up the air. Let's put scrubbers on our chimneys. Let's switch to electricity. And the air started getting cleaner, washing away. And now, many years later, it's a really bad thing to be a dark colored moth because the buildings, the trees were now light colored, and this one was not camouflaged. This one was camouflaged. And so the population of the black peppered moth, which was way high, started to decrease, and the white peppered moth started to increase. There's other stories like that we can take a look at.
So you're saying that the white peppered moth would started to decrease because of the darkness of the coal that went over London, and the black peppered moth rose because of the camouflage they had all over London.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Good job. Okay, so this video, we're going to talk about another animal, and this one is about wolves. Wolves as a predator. When you're studying this unit, you're going to learn about how animals live together. And some of them live together in very good ways, where they're mutual, they both get something. Some live together like in a communal, where one gets something but it doesn't hurt the other. And some animals live together where one's a predator and what's the other one? Prey. And so, or one could be a parasite and the other a host. And so there are different ways you're going to learn about how two animals live together. Now, we have a little problem here in Indiana. We used to have wolves here. We used to have, I believe, even bison and large elk called wapiti. The last bear, I think, was shot in Brown County in 1920. But last month, if you watch the news, there was a bear that came back to Indiana. Up by Michigan, there was a wild bear that came across the state line in the woods up there, and someone saw it, took a picture, and then went back to Michigan. So I guess you could say that the animal population of bears in Indiana went from extinct to one, and then back to extinct. We have no bears here. One thing we do have is we have lots of deer. We have lots of deer. And we have a problem with the deer. There are so many deer that they get overcrowded. For example, you guys ever heard of Eagle Creek Park? Have you been to Eagle Creek? It's a beautiful place to picnic. They have so many deer there that the deer are eating all the flowers, all the bushes, all the leaves up to 6 feet high that they can reach. What are we going to do about the deer in Eagle Creek?
You probably have to hunt them.
Hunt them? So we should go on a field trip, give everybody guns, and go hunt the deer? Really?
Yeah.
So really? So you mean I'm sitting there with my daughter and my wife, and we're having a nice picnic, and here you guys come running through with guns? I don't know about that solution. Is there another solution? What do you think?
You should probably like bring some kind of like a wolf.
Oh my goodness. You want to bring a wolf to Eagle Creek? Yeah. Now my wife and I are having a nice picnic, and here comes the big bad wolf. Really? Okay, bring a predator back. All right. Is there any other solutions? Yes.
Probably leave their food out of the country.
Oh, I see. Be like the Pied Piper. Bring food and take them to Ohio. Give the problem to someone else. Is that what you want to do? Any other solutions? Yes.
Try to move them around, like not just crowded in one place of Indiana. Move some over here and there.
Yeah, the trouble with moving them is that diseases go with them. So this is a complicated issue. When we make a park or we stop the boundaries and kind of interfere with the natural habitat. So those are some good ideas, and there's some natural ideas. And sometimes scientists look at an animal population and decide that for this habitat, it can only support this many. But every time we get involved, it's often other changes we don't know about. And that's what this video is about. And when we watch this video, the weird thing about this video, it's one of the best videos I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of videos. It's how wolves change rivers. Now, before you watch this, how wolves change rivers, how could a wolf change how a river goes? There's a couple words I want you to think about. One of them is regenerate. Does anybody know what regenerate means? Yes.
Like comes back.
Comes back. And so you're going to hear the word how the plants regenerated, came back. You're going to learn about predator and prey. And you're also going to another word that you may not know is called meander. Does anybody know what meander means? That's what a river does. A meander is, yes, when a river that goes straight because the banks have plants to hold the dirt in, that's a pretty clear, fast-moving river. A river that meanders and cuts in the bank, there's no plants to hold it, and it puts a lot of erosion and a lot of sediments in the water. Remember we did the sediment bottle in the 4th grade? We shook that all up and it turned brown. So you're going to learn how they brought wolves back to a national park called Yellowstone National Park. The wolves have been gone for 70 years. It was like deer party. The deer for 70 years had taken over, and the consequences were pretty amazing. So let's take a look at wolves change rivers.
Hi, I'm Miss Caulfield. I'm working with Miss Smith's 6th grade classroom today. And I just want to talk to you about what did you learn? We just watched a video about the wolves in Yellowstone National Park. What did you learn? Yeah.
I learned that most of the wolves, they changed the Yellowstone Park's habitat. Like they killed the deers, and the deer started to move other places. So when the deers moved, like more animals started to come back.
Okay, so he said that the wolves changed the Yellowstone National Park. They killed the deers, and when the deers were gone, things started to change. Did you have something to add?
I learned that wolves play a big part in like our ecosystem and our food chain, and help it and keep things in place and help other species get to their habitats.
So wolves actually help other species. Okay, what surprised you in the video? What did you see that surprised you? Yeah?
The wolves changed how the river was formed.
The wolves changed how the river was formed? Okay. What surprised you?
What surprised me was that the wolves were actually helping other animals to get to their habitat.
Did that surprise anybody else that the wolves actually help other animals? Right. What else surprised you? Did you have something to add? Same thing surprised you?
Mrs. Smith, what surprised you in this video?
The river was the most surprising, but the fact that you had another predator, a wolf is a predator and a bear is usually a predator, but the wolf predator actually helped the bear predator in an odd way because the bushes started growing back and the bears had more berries. I thought it was a strange way for a wolf to help a bear.
You know what? Let's play a science game to see if we can learn a little bit more about animal populations, okay? Okay, this game is called Oh Dear, and it's a science game. So when I say a science game, it's like a science model, and models scientists use all the time to learn about something that you can't do, or it's too big, or too small, or too dangerous. But this one is something we're going to do. But I have 3 rules about all my games. Rule number 1 is we have to be fair. We won't learn anything if we cheat. So play fair. Number 2 rule, I have 3 simple rules. Any game I play is to be safe. I don't want anybody hurt. And number 3, have fun. Okay, so those are the 3 rules. Play fair, be safe, and have fun. Deal? Okay. All right, so this is a game where we're going to divide the class into some of you will be a deer. And you, as a deer, need a habitat. And every year, you will either want to get shelter, water, or food. You have to have those to survive. So we're going to see what happens when you might not have enough of this, or if you might have too much of this. And so we're going to do this for about 10 years, or 10 rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Why don't we go ahead and line up?
Go ahead and pass one of these out to you, and we're going to number off 1 to 4. So when I hand it to you, we'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, remember your number. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So if you were a 1, I want you to quickly and quietly move up to the front of the room there. All 1s. If you were a 2, you're going to move over here by me. 3s, we're going to go over by Ms. Smith.
Okay, so we have divided up the class into deer and habitat, all right? You guys kind of line up in a straight line, and I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 deer to get started. Here's our deer, right? Okay, now, all the habitat, you're going to decide what you want to be this year. Put your hands on the top of your head for me. That's shelter. Put your hands on your mouth. That's water. Put your hands on your belly. That's food. So habitat, you're going to be one of those. Back up just a little bit. Deer, you need one of those things every year. So Nicole, we have 7 deer the first year. Okay, 7. All right. Let's see what happens. Deer, turn around. Don't show anybody. Pick one of those things you need this year and put it on your chest. Habitat. Decide what you want to be this year. Not a deer, but one of those other things. And put that on your chest. Back up a little bit. Show me. Put it on your chest. Put it on your chest. What are you going to be? Back up a little bit, please. All right. Back up. On the count of 3, you guys say, "Oh dear," and the deer will turn around and just stand for a second. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh dear. All right, our 7 deer need to walk over and touch one person and bring them back. Not yet. Here's my prediction. We have 7 deer. Do you think the population is going to go up, go down, or stay the same? What do you think? It's going to increase. Look, there's a lot of habitat and only 7 deer. All right, go match up and bring them back. Touch them and bring them back. And you have to match up with what you have. Wow. Okay, good job. How many deer do we have now? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. This was a good 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. This is a good year for deer. So we'll mark 14. Habitat, you took a beating. All right, deer, turn around again. Deer, you are all deer. Oh, by the way, deer, if you don't match up, you die and you become habitat. So make your pick, turn around. Don't be looking, deer. Are you ready? You guys can change, stay the same. Here we go. Don't change after you get it. On the count of 3, you guys say, "Oh dear." 1, 2, 3. Oh dear. Turn around. Walk, match, go back. Only one person, you can only match one. Wow. Wow. We only have, you died? You're over here then. We only have 4 habitat left. How many deer do we have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 24 deer. Wow. 24 deer. Now, with 24 deer and only 4 habitat left, who would like to make a prediction about what's going to happen to the deer? Yeah.
People gonna die.
People?
I mean, deer gonna die.
Deer gonna do, yeah, deer gonna die. The deer are gonna die. Turn around, face the wall, deer. You guys get closer together. Choose what you want. Excuse me, you're over here now, you're alive. When a deer dies, it becomes habitat. On the count of, you guys make your choice. Make your choice. On the count of 3, you guys say, "Oh dear." 1, 2, 3.
Oh dear.
1, 2. Wow, no, only one. Wow. We have a lot of dead deer. There should only be 8. There should only be 8. Only 8. Who got who?
I got Ray.
All right. 2, 4, 6. 2, 3. Oh yes, oh dear, I forgot to tell you. Habitat, I'm sorry, but we were going to build a new shopping mall. So you 3 have been removed out of the habitat for this year. And we built a new shopping mall. We had to take some of the habitat away. Go ahead and match up.
When you build a new building in the animal's habitat, the population decreases because you're taking up their habitat with those shopping malls and grocery stores and
things we need.
stations. Yeah.
And so you 3 were removed out of the habitat. And so did that make the population go up or down, do you think?
I think it goes down.
It would go down. So sometimes when you build something, maybe you need to reclaim some land somewhere else. All right, let's keep on with our game. 1, 2, 3.
Oh dear.
All right, oh, stop. I'm sorry, but we had a drought, and there's not a lot of water. So if you are water, come over here, all but one of you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, the drought, go ahead and match up. Sorry, you're dead. You're dead. You're dead.
A drought caused some deer to die because they had no water for that year.
So is that a man-made thing or is that a natural thing?
A natural thing.
A natural thing. And so the building of the shopping center was man-made. That affected the population. But sometimes there are natural things that affect the animal population. Let's finish the game. Okay, so that was a model of a game to show you how different things impact population, how habitat has to match the animal population. And it kind of started low, and it went up, then it went real way up, then it went down to 8, then it back up to 16 to 20, back down to 16, back down to 14, back down to 18, up to 20. And so you start getting this natural up and down in an animal population. What would happen if an animal population got so low? What would happen to those animals? They'd be endangered. They'd be threatened, endangered, and eventually they could become extinct. So that's threatened, endangered, or extinct. So, you know, those are some things to think about different animals. Now, I want you to copy down this data chart and make a graph about it and write what you learned, especially in year 6 when we had a loss of shelter because of a shopping center, and year 8 a loss of water because of a drought. And when you think about this, I want you to think about the deer in Indiana, and when we try to change it, what are some of the consequences? Hey, thanks.